Wouldn't it be simpler to invest in just one thing and know that you're getting the best option and never have to think about where your money is going ever again? Well, maybe there is an easy way to do this. We need to find a way to whittle down the options of what you could invest in order for us to find the one best option. We'll focus on the stock market rather than real estate, crypto, gold, or any other investment types. But even so, we have options. We have thousands and thousands of companies out there, so single stocks, but we also have index funds and ETFs as well. I think we should rule out investing in a single stock as the best option, because if we're investing in only one investment, then we need some diversification, right? Otherwise, how will we weather out storms and do well in the long term? If you invest in, let's say, only Johnson & Johnson, which is of course a fantastic stock with a proven history, and one that's probably not going anywhere soon given its non-cyclical nature, then you should be okay, right? Well, this is probably true. But what if, on the off chance, something happened? Like a lawsuit or something, and this meant that the stock price plummeted and never fully recovered. This is hypothetical and all very unlikely, but it does show the importance of diversifying your portfolio. Or does it? I've heard many success stories about people putting all of their money into a single company, so a single stock, and this being the best thing they ever did. Let's look at one example, a particular favourite of mine, Jason DeBolt. Jason went completely against the mantra of diversification, and early on he went all in on one stock that we know very well today. For some background, Jason used to be a software engineer at Google and at Amazon, and on the 7th of January 2021 he retired at age 39 with a portfolio just short of $12 million. He started investing in 2013 into Tesla when no one else really cared about this company, and he continued to invest into Tesla during the hard times when the stock was seemingly going nowhere, and that's because he really believed in Tesla and in Elon Musk. So he continued to buy in. Jason did really well, and this is a similar story for many other Tesla-made millionaires, and you'll also see this across different stocks as well. People who bought in early and held got rewarded, but of course this means picking the right stock, and this is tough. So I think if we're only picking one investment, then it would be really hard to know what is the best choice now to pick for the future. The next Tesla or the next Apple, if you will, and you need quite a high risk appetite to do this. For this reason, we're going to turn away from a single stock, a single company, and instead turn to look at a single investment that can give us a lot less risk and a lot more diversification. This leads us nicely on to index funds and ETFs, which are two different types of funds, but they both give you a way to buy a single investment with exposure to many companies. They're an easy way to invest into many companies that are featured on an index. And you get these in proportion to the size of the company, so the market cap of the company. The best fund would be one that is likely to give good returns, to do well, one that has good companies in it that are probably going to do well across many different types of economic situations, and one that is not going to cost a small loan for you to be able to invest in it. These criteria lead us to a passive index fund or ETF rather than any actively managed ones. So, what are some popular ones? Well, we don't have to look very far at all. Look no further than Warren Buffett, who said in May 2022, "In my view, for most people, the best thing to do is to own the S&P 500 index fund."
It's the same thing that makes most sense practically all of the time, and that is to consistently buy an S&P 500 low-cost index fund. Keep buying it through thick and thin, and especially through thin.
Okay, so we have the S&P 500 index fund as one competitor. Are there any others? A quick Google shows the S&P 500 funds, but also we start seeing this QQQ appearing. The QQQ is an ETF which tracks an index called the Nasdaq 100. The Nasdaq 100 and the S&P 500 are two of the most popular indices, and they have many similarities, including having most of the same companies in them. The S&P 500 consists of the largest 500 companies in the US, and the Nasdaq 100, as you guessed it, consists of the top 100 companies in the US. And the Nasdaq 100 tends to be more tech heavy and tends to be more concentrated on the higher performing sectors in the market, like tech, consumer services, and healthcare. We now have two options, both of which are focused on US companies, which means they're not too diversified? Well, actually, the companies in the QQQ or an S&P 500 tracker like VUSA or VU are actually global companies operating all around the world. So actually, there is a lot of diversification. But either way, let's also include a global tracker. If you are only investing in one thing, then surely it should be the all-rounder. We are going to be comparing VU, which is essentially the same as VUSA for the UK audience, the QQQ, and we'll also use the iShares MSCI World ETF. I will say that this ETF is only focused on developed markets, so you can probably find a more diversified option. For this backtest, we are going to adjust for inflation, we're going to reinvest the dividends, and we're going to start with an initial amount of $1,000 into each of these three portfolios. The youngest fund of these three is VU, which started in 2010. So for that reason, we're going to start them all in 2010 to make comparison more simple. The first thing that you'll notice is that the QQQ here in red has historically provided the best growth and returns, with the S&P 500 here in blue coming in second. But one thing to point out is that the volatility of the QQQ is much greater than the other two. Look at how greatly the lines fall and rise. And you can also see this volatility shown on the statistics here. Look at how different the best and the worst years are for the QQQ. And although the best year was amazing at almost 50%, the worst year was really tough at nearly negative 21%. The standard deviation is another measure of market volatility, and it measures how widely prices are dispersed from the average price. And again, the standard deviation of the QQQ is higher. So what we're saying here is that although the QQQ historically gives better returns, you are exposed to more volatility and therefore risk. Looking at the annualized return for 3, 5 and 10-year periods, we can see that the QQQ outperforms the S&P 500 and that the S&P 500 outperforms the MSCI World in all cases. Based on the analysis of this data, it's easy to say that the QQQ is the best option and that if you're building only a one fund portfolio, then this fund should be your choice. But it's not this simple. Past performance does not necessarily indicate future performance. It could be that over the next few decades, the UK economy does extremely well and has a fantastic time. And because of this, you'll see that the global tracker with some UK companies in it will do very well. Or that the QQQ, which is very tech heavy, may continue to soar as tech outperforms all other sectors, seeing as the world is just getting more and more tech focused. Or maybe tech is due a plateau and therefore the S&P 500 will outperform the QQQ. The point here is that we just don't know. With all this said, is having one investment in your portfolio a good idea, whether this is just a single stock or just one fund? Maybe a portfolio with 2 or 3 or more funds is a better option. Let me know your thoughts.